Hi, I am your host, Rose, and I'm so excited. I have a very, very special guest. And I want to tell you, I met her when I was 15 years old, learning how to sew. You can see I did good. And the business that they had in the Bronx, for me, was one of my greatest inspiration. The whole family inspired me. I'm 60 years old now, so you know I met him when I was 15. And I opened up my first store in 1978, and it was because of this family that I'm going to introduce you to, because in my neighborhood on Tiffany Street and Kelly Street, they call it the Fort Apache area. This was the only black-owned store that I knew of in that community, which was my community that I love. And the business inspired me to open up my first store and my second store. But more than anything, I don't even know how to say this, but she inspired me in a way nobody else did. At 15, I did not like myself. I did not love myself because of my skin color. Everything I heard about black people was negative, not worthy, we are less than. When I started going to the store, talking to Ann Seeley and her family and her mother and her husband, I got a rude awakening. I stopped using bleaching cream. And I started liking being in this black body. And then over time, I learned how to love being the body that the Creator got me in. And I want to thank her so much, because I feel if it wasn't for her and her family and the inspiration that I received, I wouldn't be here talking to you today. Every time I think about them, I think there's nothing I cannot do if I put my mind to it. So now I'm going to introduce you to my greatest inspirator, Ann Seeley.
Well, Rose, thank you for that incredible introduction. It is interesting, as I'm sitting on her television show, at her invitation, that she refers me to having accomplished what it is she says I've accomplished. One of the things that was wonderful about the experience of knowing Rose was her real interest in what she saw and her ability to create out of it. At a time when perhaps people weren't, we were just coming out of the 60s and the turmoil of the 60s, and here was this young lady, creative, coming to the store, spending time with us. We were, incidentally, totally unaware that you were that caught up with what we did, because we came from, in my opinion, an unusual situation, or perhaps people say it's unusual, where up until that point, a great deal of attention had been paid to us in terms of our background and color. We, from an early time, and I know, to show you how early, my father, who's living now, is 101 years old, and he came to New York when he was approximately, he was born in 1909. He came when he was approximately 18 or 19 years old.
Wow.
So from that time on, and just based on his North Carolina background and the incredible attention that he was paid to by his mother and father, his grandfather, we believed from early on, the blacker the berry, the sweeter the juice. Now, that is an expression that has long left our community, and it really speaks to what you have to develop in your mind when you live in a society that appears to be as racist as the one that we lived in up until that day. So our color in and of itself wasn't a problem. This is true. When we were young, my parents were the superintendents of a large building, and a very, very notable woman from New Jersey, she happened to be white, but that's irrelevant, would sit in our living room for hours talking to my mother. So one day she got up enough nerve and said to my mother, "Miss Jeffries, did you ever wish you were white?" And my mother said to her, after some thought, "The only way I would want to be white is if by being white, I could be better than something I can be by being black." And that's how we felt. We felt, give it a go. Go ahead. Whatever it is, do. So when we came to your experience, to meeting you, our idea was to show the community that you could develop a business. And the community embraced us on a level that brings me to tears very often when I think about it. Because armed with one buttonhole machine and 6 boxes of buttons, the community known as Fort Apache, the Bronx, permitted us, encouraged us, lifted us on their wave, and carried us perhaps to be one of the most widely known trimming stores in that area of the Bronx. We had people come from Co-op City, we had people come from Soundview, we had people come from Underhill Avenue, people from Washington Heights. We were just widely known. But it was because the people embraced us. We embraced them and they embraced us. We didn't know not to embrace them. So we did. We didn't feel self-conscious. We knew we were there to serve, and we did. So that's the point at which you met us. And I'm so happy, obviously, that you did, because of that, according to you, but more importantly, the way I see it, I've had an opportunity to touch the world.
Yeah.
I've had an opportunity to touch the world. And that's special.
Well, go ahead, because you can tell us about your experience with Malcolm X, because you was part of that.
Well, one of the things that not so much drove us, but lifted us to the whole relationship with the community that we were active with at that time is I knew rather well the late and great Malcolm X. And because of that experience and my observation of his love of information and truth-telling, my husband and I grasped that early on. There are things that people can tell you and you can believe or not believe. But the most important thing in my mind about who he was his absolute devotion to telling the truth, even at peril of his own life. He was going to seek the truth out. So after a really very difficult time there when we lost him in a great and horrible assassination, we joined together and decided what can we do to carry whatever part of his program forward. And one of the things that he said was, each one teach one, and we have to get this done by any means necessary. Now, people have taken that to mean a lot of different things, but one of the things that we always emphasize was, and it's very true, people do not really internalize how much business impacts your importance in a community. When you have business, you can hire people. We were blessed to be able to do that. You can inspire people. According to you, we did that. You can subsidize people in ways that we don't have to go into now. You can lend them things. You can teach them things. So we thought, okay, this is where we need to be in order to impact our community, because the community was our major focus. The funny things that we ran into, however, when we were there, and some of it was charming, we would leave. We lived less than 9 blocks from where we were. And we would meet people walking home with our children, and they would say, "You live here?" Which made me understand that we were in a time when people had not seen people of color in their own communities owning their own businesses.
Thank you.
Because most communities live where they own their businesses.
Thank you.
That's not different. Whether the public understands it or not, and excuse that expression, because we have all levels of understanding, and understanding far exceeds what I have. Mm-hmm. And a really well-rounded community is a community in which you have major impact on your business and your education. Mm-hmm. It's absolutely essential, because it means you can field teams. When the community is supporting you, you're able to give them money back. Mm-hmm. It means that you can offer scholarships. So having business is the part of our community in terms of what I think that I still seek and I still pursue. Mm-hmm. To me, it's, in terms of spirituality, the interesting thing about it is that's when your spirits really meet. Because, or for me, because for someone who has an idea that you're not able to pursue, you may be able to supply the funding and carry that forward. We all have to work on different levels. But if you look at it, those communities that have that relationship, the businesses, the places of religion, the schools, the newsstands, they have a vested interest in seeing that community thrive. They have a vested interest. They have a vested interest in seeing that your child is educated.